God is faithful. He will never allow me to be tempted or you to be tempted beyond our ability. So just because you forgive somebody, you don't be afraid that they'll take advantage of you, because God is in control of that. He can even kill that person if the person is troubling you too much. Sure, I don't have any doubt about that. Or he can stop people, and there are people who have harassed me and troubled me in so many ways through the years. But when a time came, like the Lord tells the waves of the sea to stop at the seashore and say, thus far and no further. You know how the waves come to the seashore, and sometimes you see the waves coming and it looks as if it's going to go right over into the land. No, it comes to the seashore. If you've gone to a beach, you've seen that. It comes like that. You think it's going to come over you, and it goes back. And in the book of Job, you read, the Lord stops the sea saying, thus far and no further. And I'll tell you this, if you're a child of God and you seek to obey his principles, the Lord will say, thus far and no further. Thus far and no further. That's what he'll always say. He will not allow it to come any further. He will not allow you to be tempted beyond your ability. But when the temptation comes, or a trial from whomever, he'll give you some way of escape. I don't know how that'll be in different situations in different ways, but I found that through the years. He can stop anything. He can stop people trying to kill you. He can stop people trying to take you to court or harass you, make you lose your money. He can stop anything. Yeah. There was one time in my life where people who hated me tried to blow up the car I was driving. I didn't know it. I was driving along, and I don't want to go into the details, but it didn't happen. God protected me till I reached my home. There's nothing God cannot save you from. I don't want to give you all the details of that. But let me assure you, my dear brothers and sisters, your life will be tremendously happy if you learn to be merciful to others. I don't want to go on more on that. I think I've said enough, but it's very, very, very important. Okay, we go to the next good attitude or right attitude. Matthew 5 and verse 8. Matthew 5 and verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So what is purity of heart? That's another thing. We've already thought of righteousness in verse 6. This must be something more than righteousness. Righteousness is having a clear conscience that my heart, I seek to love everyone. I've sought to be merciful to others. I've mild, all those qualities are already there, mourning for sin. Now it talks about purity of heart. It must be something more than what has already been covered. And I believe that refers to, there's only one person who is pure, and that's Jesus Christ. That means having a heart that has no place for anything other than Christ. There's no love in my heart for anyone other than Christ or anything other than Christ. That is one of the conditions of discipleship. So this is what purity of heart means. Let me turn to Luke 14 on the conditions of discipleship to understand purity of heart. If anyone loves father or mother more than me, he's not worthy of me, Luke 14:26, or wife or children or brothers, sisters. See, he used the word hatred there. We've talked about this before. But the point is this, I never stopped stressing it. For years and years I preached that you cannot be a true disciple if you love your father or your mother or your wife or your child or your brother or sister or brothers and sisters of the church more than Christ. In fact, your love for Christ must be like the light of the sun, and your love for all these other people must be the light of the stars. Yes, there is love there, the light of the stars, but it disappears when the morning sun rises. In other words, in the presence of the love of Christ, my love for others disappears. It's there, but I can't see it because I can see only Jesus. You know how you look at the sun and then you look around you can't see other things clearly because your eyes are so full of that blinding light. That's what it means to be pure in heart. where I love God supremely. In other words, there's no place in my heart for anything other than God. Anything other, if something other than God is also in my heart. Somebody I love is also there. And you say, well, how am I supposed to love my parents and my wife and children and all? Through Christ. When you love your parents through Christ, you'll never do anything wrong to please your parents. A lot of people want to please their parents. Well, they don't love God with all their hearts. I want to please God. And I'm willing to offend my parents if I have to please God. I'm willing to offend my wife if necessary to please God. There are very few Christians who live this life of discipleship, and that's why the Lord doesn't speak to them. They don't get revelation. Their lives are not effective in God's kingdom for other people. They're not radical disciples. They're half-hearted, slipshod in their life, and therefore they find that they don't find rivers of living water flowing out from them, blessing people. Imagine when you stand before the Lord one day and God shows you rivers of life could have flowed out from you if you have loved me more than everybody else. And you would have loved all those people much better. I'll tell you something, you love your wife much better if you put Christ first and say, Lord, I love you. All my heart is filled with love for you. You love your wife much better and you love your family much better, definitely. So put the Lord first. That's the meaning of a pure heart, where there's no place, and no place for possessions. That's the other condition. A man who doesn't give up all his possessions. You know, in the Old Testament, the big sin was idolatry that God condemned more than anything else. And Christians have got idols in their heart. Many Christians. Money is one of the biggest idols that Christians worship. Money or God. You cannot love both. It is impossible. You have to make a choice. And sometime or the other, if you make that choice and stick to it, your life will be tremendously useful to God. I believe God could use many of you far more than he's doing right now. If you say, Lord, there'll be no place for money in my heart. You'll be there. And I believe you'll provide for me whatever I need. I've proved it for more than a half a century, for more than 50 years. You put God first, he'll take care of all your needs. So there's amazing what God can do when you are pure in heart. And when your heart is full of God alone, what happens is you are able to see his face more clearly, and you'll be able to serve him more fully. Otherwise, you'll only be serving people. You know, they say you must love people and serve them. I agree. But I say there's a lot of difference between serving people and serving God. I don't want to serve people. I want to serve God. And that way, I serve people much better than if I try to serve people themselves. I don't know whether you have seen this. I believe this is related to blessed are the pure in heart, because they shall see God. That means if my heart is like this, I'll be able to see God all the time. I'll speak to him face to face, like God said about Moses. I speak to Moses face to face. And that's what I want. I want to be able to see God. Another meaning of this is that if my heart is pure, I'll see God in every situation. I'll never see Judas Iscariot coming to betray me. No. I'll see my heavenly Father giving me a cup to drink like Jesus did in Gethsemane. Peter saw Judas Iscariot because he didn't see God there. And he took out a sword to fight. You know, we take out a sword to fight because we don't see God in that situation. We see Judas. We see the Roman soldiers. And we want to take out our sword and fight. Jesus said, put your sword back. He said, the cup which my Father has given me, shall I not drink it? Even in that desperate situation, he saw God because his heart was pure. Hanging on the cross, forsaken by his Father, he saw God. He said, Father, forgive them. They don't even know what they're doing. A person who sees God will always react like that. He'll never fight. And if someone does come to hurt him, and like Malchus, that soldier, that servant, Peter cut off his ear and Jesus healed it immediately. We'll do good to the fellow who's come to harm us. When you see God, that's how you are. You'll be like God, doing good to the fellow who's come to harm you. So that's the meaning of seeing God. Blessed are the pure in heart. And if you are not seeing God in every situation, if you find yourself facing a situation right now and you can't see God there, you only see all the evil people trying to harm you, the problem is not with those people. The problem is you don't see God. Your heart is not pure. There's some idolatry in your heart. I see it like that. Lord, if there's any situation in my life where I blame people and I don't see you, it's because my heart is not pure. If my heart were pure, I would see you in every situation. Blessed are the pure in heart because they only see God wherever they look. Whatever situation they see God. And they live before God's face. And when they serve seeing the face of God. So let me give you this. I was wanting to show you this passage in the Old Testament, which is a very lovely passage. If you turn to Ezekiel, turn with me to Ezekiel and chapter 44. Please turn to this verse. This is a passage which the Lord spoke to me nearly 60 years ago, 55 years ago at least. In Ezekiel 44, he distinguishes between two groups of Levites who were serving him. The Levites were the ones who went into the tabernacle or into the temple to serve him. But he says among them there are two categories. Like the Lord will say today, among believers, there are two groups of people. And he says the Levites, they were compromisers. Yeah, they were called by God to serve him. And there are people today who are so-called priests, preachers, pastors, servants of God, but they are compromisers in their life. They serve for money. They're very eager to get money from the people. And they've gone astray from me. It says in Ezekiel 44:10, they went after their idols. Something other than God was in their heart. Christians who got idols, money. Where can I get money from people to support me? Where can I get this help from that help? They got idols in their heart. They are worshiping an idol. Usually it's money. Where can I go to get more money? They went astray, Ezekiel 44:10, because they went after idols.